16. Ezra leads me on an unfamiliar path through the corridors, the air between us charged with a strange sensation that makes my skin prickle and itch. I'm not sure what it is I'm sensing. The silence permeating the air isn't exactly unpleasant, but there's a noticeable shift between how he was acting before my latest vision and how he's acting with me now. A slight smile teases at the corners of his lips, only adding to my confusion. Maybe I'm just picking up on the fact that the distrust he's been clinging to seems to have vanished. I watch him out of my peripheral vision, wary of the unknown motivation behind his sudden change in attitude. As much as I want to trust him, the difference is far too great and came on too quickly to be convincing. For that reason, I don't buy it. There's something he's not telling me. Something he doesn't want me to know. Here we are. He pushes open an oval-shaped bulkhead door to my right, stepping over the metal lip into the small but cozy space beyond. Curious, I peek past him into the empty quarters, immediately taking note of the bed. I don't need to look at the plump mattress for more than a few seconds to know it's way more comfortable than anything else I've slept on for months. I think you'll find this much more to your liking. We aren't in the business of holding prisoners here, and that other room is actually more of a storage closet, so it wasn't really a long-term solution. A breath sticks in my throat. Long-term? Does this mean he wants me to stay here? With Phoenix? Ray said something along those lines, but is staying here really even an option for me? Hope swells in my chest, but its presence is fleeting, like a fire doused by a downpour of water. Too many bad things have happened to me in my life, and now my brain is programmed to think nothing good ever can, or will. Even the thought of a new life here with people who might actually care about me is marred by doubt and suspicion. My movements are cautious as I step into the tiny square room, my gaze skirting along the gray walls. Although the aesthetic is reminiscent of my cell at the DSD, this space still feels like home in a way the terraced house I shared with my mother in Zone 2 never did. Maybe because I always sensed a distance between us, a deep river she wasn't willing to cross, further proven when she handed me over to Richter. But here the people didn't turn me away the second my life was in danger and I needed their help. Here, every river they face has a bridge. Upon coming full circle, I meet Ezra's gaze, a frown forming between my brows. I know what you're thinking, and don't worry, he says. You aren't taking this bed away from anyone. This place is big enough that we actually have rooms to spare. That wasn't exactly what I was thinking. Oh, uncertainty flashes across his face. Okay, then what were you thinking? I hesitate, watching my foot as the bottom of my shoe scuffs against the concrete floor. I was wondering if it's okay that you're offering me this. If you actually have the authority to decide who is and who isn't a prisoner here. His expression hardens. You let me worry about that. I'm on your side now. That's all that matters. But why are you? I want to ask. Is he only doing this because of his mother? Because we're victims of the same disease? Or is it because of something else I'm not seeing? What's changed? I'm tempted to press the matter, but I hold back the words of protest building up in my throat. I don't want to test the limits of Ezra's graciousness when we finally seem to be making progress. My teeth bite down on my lower lip as I sneak a longing glance back at the bed. There's no reason why I shouldn't accept this small comfort. If I reject it, I'd only be doing so to punish myself. Between months of torture at the DSD and my recent brush with death from blood loss and sepsis, according to Ray when I pressed her one day about the time I spent unconscious, I think I've been punished enough. Clearly, Ezra seems to think so too. The silence between us drags on for a few seconds too long to be natural. Clearing his throat, Ezra looks over at the door. I'll get Ray to find some extra clothes for you. There are bound to be some lying around here somewhere. If not, we'll figure something out. Thank you. When I speak, that ghost of a smile returns, and it's like I'm looking at a different person than the man I met in that dingy bar in Zone 7. In the brief time I've spent with Ray and Jenner, I've discovered how compassion can be a driving force, especially when distanced from the draining nature of the state, which discourages such sentiments. Sympathy, or, in Ezra's case, empathy, considering he's seen what I'm going through before with his mother, can alter a person's mindset toward anything, regardless of the circumstances. Or in our case, because of the circumstances. Since learning I suffer from the same disease his mother had, Ezra's visibly softened toward me, his eyes now warm and curious, rather than hard and glistening with distrust and suspicion. By now, he must know I'm not a spy for the state, but a victim of it, just like everyone here, just like his mother, who was abandoned in an asylum to die alone. Otherwise, why would he be doing all this? I have to believe he wouldn't show me such kindness unless he knew I wasn't a threat. An awkward hush fills the room as I shuffle forward and plop down on the bed, the mattress welcoming my weight with a creaking sigh of the springs. A smile spreads across my face as I fall back against the blankets, forgetting Ezra's presence and pushing aside the unending stream of questions plaguing my mind. I've only been here for a brief time, but I can sense something changing within me, as if all the emotions the state has encouraged me to repress my whole life are inching closer to the surface. Perhaps, like me, they're reaching for freedom, freedom from a life of conformity, freedom from fear, freedom to live life how I choose. I'll, leave you to get settled then, Ezra says, rubbing a hand across the back of his neck. He turns for the door, stepping over the raised threshold without uttering another word. I follow his rigid movements with narrowed eyes, wondering why he suddenly seems so out of sorts. But the answer never comes to me, and I'm too exhausted to care. Shrugging, I relax against the soft mattress, and as my body unwinds, a fog of sleep washes over me. My eyes drift closed, embracing the darkness. But I'm pulled back into full awareness by the sound of my name. Wynter. My eyes peek open and lock on Ezra where he wavers in the doorway. As he stares at me, I realize this is the first time I've heard him say my name. Well, the first time in person and not in my head. And hearing it reminds me of what I saw in my vision. Of that future where we stand together, just the two of us, alone at the end of the world. I have to ask. He hesitates, averting his gaze. Did my brother say what he wanted with you? I bristle at the mention of Dr. Richter. I understand why Ezra would want to know more about my time at the DSD and my connection to his villainous brother, but the memory of what I went through is distressing, and I'd rather not talk about it if I don't have to. Still, knowing what I do about his mother, and accepting that the story of my disease doesn't only belong to me, I decide he deserves to know. Frowning, I shake my head and sit upright. No, just that I'd be doing a service to the state if I cooperated. I know he planned on using my visions to lead him to Phoenix, but he never told me anything else. I assumed I was just some guinea pig for him to study and then dispose of once I'd exhausted my usefulness. I considered this line of thought for a moment. Now that I know Dr. Richter and Ezra are brothers, I wonder what the former really wanted with me. Did he just want to locate Phoenix so he could track down Ezra and get his revenge? Or was he hoping to find Ray and bring her home? Or was it a combination of both and also doing his duty to the state? Perhaps it was something else altogether. Ezra stares at the wall behind me, his eyes glazing over. Then, as if coming to some internal revelation, he crosses the room and crouches in front of me. I think it might be best if we keep this to ourselves for now. Don't tell anyone else what the state wants with you. And whatever you do, don't mention your condition or my brother. Okay? I gape at him, bewildered by his unexpected request. I get why he wouldn't want me to say anything about Dr. Richter. The news of their familial connection might not reflect well on him, considering how long he's kept it a secret, but I don't understand why he wants me to hide the rest. What does he think will happen if I don't? Aren't all the people here also running from the state? Don't they protect their own? But you're not really one of them, are you? An annoying voice in the back of my head reminds me. I can't control what's happening to me, I snap. My tone is sharper than I intend, but I don't apologize for it. I lost much of my ingrained politeness, thanks to the hell I went through at the DSD. And a friendly reminder, I just had a seizure in front of everyone living here. Sure, maybe they won't think much of that now, but they will the second it happens again. And when that time comes, they'll start asking questions. He knows I'm right. I can tell as much by the disgruntled expression spreading over his face. The effects of this disease will be impossible to hide. Sooner or later, the others will demand to know what's wrong with me and why I'm really here. Sooner or later, the truth will come out. No one else has to know the details, he says. Let them think what they want. The important thing is that we keep you safe. Why? I want to ask. Why is what happens to me so damn important to him? Hopefully not because of anything having to do with his brother or the DSD. Then again, refugees or not, these people are part of a rebellion. It would be foolish of me not to acknowledge that a tool of the enemy is also a weapon against it. A shiver runs across my skin at the thought. As I silently question Ezra's reasoning and motives, something occurs to me. Are you just saying this because of what happened with Jenner? Ezra lowers his gaze. You know, I can count on one hand how many times I've seen Jenner mad. Like, actually mad. I must have really pissed him off. Will he forgive you? My voice catches a little, and I take a deep breath to hide the unease racing through me. Forgiveness is as much a part of my world as empathy or understanding. The state doesn't care about your point of view or why you did anything. It only cares if you follow the rules and what punishment you deserve should you break them. Forgiveness is never even on the table. Of course, Ezra waves his hand dismissively. We've been friends for years, and it'll take much more than one fight to jeopardize what we have. He'll calm down once he realizes I've done nothing wrong. I can't even fathom that notion, one built around the concept of forgiveness. Forgiveness doesn't exist in the state. One mistake and you're guilty. End of discussion. And guilt always leads to punishment of some kind, some worse than others, some deadly. People don't even risk arguments with family or friends out of fear of what outcome it might lead to. Ezra, Jenner, and Ray were all raised in the heart, just like me. They would have experienced the line we all have to toe for the sake of avoiding the vengeful wrath of the state. And yet, it hasn't escaped my notice that ever since my arrival, all they've done is argue, as if the submissive traits they had growing up have all worn away the longer they've lived outside normal society. It's fascinating to watch, except for the fact that the disagreements are almost always because of me. I might not know them well, but that doesn't mean I want to be the wedge that drives them apart. I came here to find Ezra, to find answers about my condition and the future we're all unknowingly barreling toward, not to make his life, or anyone else's, harder than it already is. You know, I wasn't too receptive to the idea when Ray first ran it by me. but I've been thinking a lot, and I agree with her now. Ezra laughs at the confused look on my face, the sound flooding my body with warmth while simultaneously spreading through me like a chill. A gentle smile curls up his lips. You should stay, he clarifies. You belong here as much as any of us. Maybe more so, considering the bastards you've run from. That feeling of hope returns to my chest, but it's fleeting, a weak flicker like a faltering heartbeat. I'm not a rebel, so I don't know how much help I'd be. I admit, I didn't come here to try to change the world. Only my own. He shrugs. No one in Phoenix is claiming to be a hero. We're all just trying to get by and do whatever we have to do to survive. Sound familiar? My eyes widen. That does sound familiar. My entire life has been built around the need to survive. Ever since my father was arrested and executed, I've been on constant alert, always in sight of the state's watchful eye. But here, the state can't reach me or see me. Here, I can do more than just survive and spend my days living in a bubble of fear. Maybe here, in this place, I can live. The memory of my vision floods my head as Ezra rises from the floor and shifts onto the bed beside me. The unspoken connection I sensed between us intensifies the closer he gets, like heat against my skin. I flush, wondering if he feels it too. We sit side by side, neither one of us daring to penetrate the hush with empty words. As the silence thickens, what Ezra said about hiding my condition drifts back to the forefront of my mind. What will these people do when they find out why I'm here? What will they do when they find out what I am? I know we didn't exactly get off on the right foot, and it might seem odd given my recent behavior, but you can always talk to me if you need to get something off your chest. I'm not a bad listener. I peek over at Ezra, and he smiles again, raising one tawny brow in encouragement. The words stick to the roof of my mouth, held back by 18 years of forced emotional suppression. I gave in with Ray, but even then, I knew opening up on that level to someone could reveal a weakness they could then exploit. And that's exactly what it would be if I spilled my guts to someone who I would have sworn hated me only an hour ago. It would be weakness. It would expose the desperate desire for human connection I didn't even realize was present within me. At least, that's what the state has trained me to think. But now, as my eyes fix on Ezra's, the alternative hangs before me. Perhaps divulging my concerns is the first step in bringing us closer together, and will help me uncover the extent of our connection and how it leads to that desolate future. Maybe this is the key to understanding my visions. You haven't seen how everyone here looks at me, I blurt out, unable to keep the agitated edge out of my voice. I've lived in fear long enough to recognize the signs. They're terrified of me. I almost miss the avoidance I encountered every single day in the heart. I'm not used to so many eyes staring at me. I'm not used to being viewed as the enemy. In some ways, I almost feel like the evil creatures from the fairy tales my father told me when I was young. Dark, haunting stories forbidden in our society. Stories he never told me around my mother. To the people here, my motives are unknown. To them, I could be dangerous. To them, I might very well be a monster. You killed someone, that infuriating voice chimes in. They'd be right to think that. Luckily for me, they don't know what I did. I don't even allow myself to wonder how much would be different if they knew the truth. Ezra places a hand on my shoulder, and to my surprise, I don't shy away from his touch. I'll talk to them, he promises. Is there really any point? I press. They're going to find out about me eventually. You can't hide the truth from them forever. Then they'll realize they were right to be afraid. Ezra holds my gaze for a moment, searching for answers I have no incentive to give, then says, almost to himself, "You're right. Maybe we shouldn't then." My stomach clenches. What do you mean? We tell them the state's after you without saying why. If they ask, we make something up. Something that won't give anyone reason to. He clamps his mouth shut, cutting off the rest of whatever he was about to say. When his eyes shift to mine, I furrow my brow at him. Reason to what? I nearly scream. Ignoring my silent question, he says, "It's been a long time since we had anyone new join our sect, so they probably just want some assurances that you aren't going to get us all arrested or killed. Once that suspicion is gone, they'll accept you into the fold. They just need to believe you're one of us first." He jumps off the bed and extends his arm in front of me, his hand palm up in offering. "It's a bit of a long shot, but I have an idea. You in?" I stare at Ezra's hand, leery of his scheming expression. As if to reassure me, or possibly warn me, a slideshow of images from my vision manifests in my mind, once again showing me those hazel eyes and the tears over whatever it is he's going to do that makes me wonder if I should trust him. Warnings flash like neon lights behind my eyes, but I ignore them and slide my hand into his. I'm not sure what's running through his head, and that frightens me. But at this moment, at least for right now, I want to believe he has my best interest at heart. I want to believe he's on my side, as he claimed. I want to believe I can trust him. Now it's time to find out if he's lying.